My name is Austin. I'm 16 and I'm a male. This story takes place in a small forest in my neighborhood with three friends of mine. I live on a golf course surrounded by woodsy areas in a small town in North Carolina. Me and my friends thought we would be some cool kids riding bikes around our neighborhood. We saw an opening that leads into one of our many forests and we decided to explore it. Leading into the woods was a little bridge covered by trees. Once you get to the end of the bridge, there's a big tree to the right of us. I want you to keep this tree in mind. The tree was a healthy oak tree. The bark was fresh, almost like it had just been planted and grown recently. Surrounding the patch of woodsy area was barbed wire, pretty sketchy, but we didn't care at the time. After we saw it, we left and didn't think much of it. We decided to go back 2 weeks later and we saw that the tree and the bark had been ripped clean off and claw marks running up the tree about 8 feet tall. We decided to find a way to maneuver the barbed wire to go deeper inside the woods. As we were walking down, I had a weird feeling that we were being watched or followed. About 15 minutes later, we were heading back towards the bridge when out the corner of my eye I saw something move. I looked to my left and it was something white running through the field, but the field was filled with broken limbs, leaves, grasses, etc. But we heard nothing break. After I saw that white figure, we bolted out. We never went back to those woods. Jenny was exhausted after a long day of work. All she wanted to do was take a nice hot shower and go to bed. She turned on the shower and waited for the water to heat up. Steam started to fill the bathroom as the hot water ran. Jenny got in the shower and let the hot water run over her body. It felt soothing and relaxing. She closed her eyes and she rinsed the shampoo from her hair, but then suddenly she felt a coldness on her arm. It felt like an icy finger tracing down her skin. She opened her eyes with a startling fear, but nothing was there. Just my imagination, she thought. She closed her eyes again to enjoy the warm water, but soon she felt the cold, clammy feeling again, this time on her back. It felt like a hand sliding down her spine. She whipped around, but nothing was there. Her heart started pounding. Steam filled the shower, making it hard to see anything clearly, but in the corner of her eye, through the foggy glass door, she thought she spotted a dark silhouette standing outside the shower. She blinked and it was gone. Panic setting in, she scrambled to turn off the water, but the faucet seemed stuck. Cold terror gripped her as behind the pouring water, she was sure she could see the faint outline of a ghostly face staring right at her through the shower door. A pale arm started to reach towards the handle to slide the shower door open. Jenny screamed. She lunged forward and slammed the shower faucet off with all her might. The water stopped. Silence. She slid open the shower door, but nothing was there. Her bathroom was empty. She never did figure out if she had imagined the whole terrifying ordeal. The next morning, Jenny tried to convince herself that she had just imagined the ghostly encounter due to being overly tired. But when she went to take a shower that night, she couldn't shake the feeling of dread. As the bathroom filled with steam, she thought she heard a faint whisper coming from the shower head.
Get out.
She froze in place, listening, just the sound of water dripping. With a shaking hand, she reached in to turn on the shower. As the hot water sprayed down, she saw the strange shape start to form in the steam on the shower glass. Ghastly faces and bony fingers appeared out of nowhere, only to fade away again. She began washing herself hurriedly, constantly peering through the steam for any signs of movement. Everything had seemed normal, and she started to relax. Just then, the water turned ice cold. She shrieked as the freezing water pelted down on her. The shower glass started to rattle, as if someone was trying to get in. She leapt forward to turn off the water, but slipped on the wet floor of the tub. As she struggled to stand up, a low, breathy whisper rasped in her ear.
You shouldn't have come back.
Panicking, she scrambled out of the tub, grabbing a towel, but when she wiped the steam from the mirror to look, words were scribbled across in what looked horribly like blood.
Get out, or else.
Jenny screamed and ran out of the bathroom. She immediately packed her bags, knowing, before the evil spirit made good on its threat, she moved out the house the very next day, vowing to never return. To preface this story, I am a plant biology student at my local college, so I like to take nature walks to keep my plant identification skills sharp. This morning, I was on one of my nature walks looking around a large oak tree when I noticed a strange object directly in the center of what seemed to be a red spray painted circle. Of course, me being the idiot I am, I decided to investigate immediately. I walked over to the object and noticed it seemed to be some sort of doll, made of tightly woven sticks and what looked to be hair. I backed away disgusted and decided that was enough investigating for the day. However, the closer I got back to home, the more I couldn't stop thinking about the doll. So foolishly, I turned around to retrieve it. I got back to the doll, picked it up and tossed it in my bag and started to head back to my apartment. After finally making it back to my apartment, I pulled the doll out of my bag and placed it on my kitchen table. The long walk through the forest absolutely demolished my energy, so I decided to pull a frozen pizza out of the freezer and heat it up. Not so patiently waiting for the pizza to be done, I wound up staring at the doll. There was something off about it, other than the fact it had what I assumed was human hair in it, and I found it in the middle of the forest. Just as I started to get lost in thought about the doll, the timer in my oven started to ring. I waddled over to the oven and pulled out the pizza. My mouth was watering as the hunger started to overcome me. I sat down and pulled up a video on my phone, as I refused to eat without entertainment. Just as fast as I took a bite out of the pizza, I spit it out. Something tastes awful about it. I mean, sure, it's no gourmet meal, but I've had plenty of frozen pizzas, and none of that tasted this foul. I played it off as I must have just gotten an old pizza or something. I pulled a glass of water from the tap and took a sip to wash the nasty taste from my mouth, but the water tasted just as vile. I started to panic and grabbed anything that was halfway edible from the pantries and fridge, and all of it tasted horrid. Just as I started to vomit the horrendous taste of the combination of food I had just eaten, I started to hear what seemed to be the sound of snapping twigs coming from the kitchen table. I looked over and gasped in fear as I noticed a mouth started to form on the face of the doll. As soon as the mouth on the doll seemed to be complete, my mouth instantly seemed to dry out, as it was so dry, if I moved my tongue, it started to crack and bleed. I sprinted to my bathroom to see if I could notice a difference in my mouth. I got to the mirror and fell on my knees in horror. My mouth had lost all colour. Everything from my lips to my throat had turned a drab grey colour. I started to cry at the sight of my mouth and the astronomical pain I was enduring. The tears streaming down my face started to get thicker and thicker. I wanted to stand up and look into the mirror, but I stayed down out of the fear of what I would witness. After around 2 to 3 minutes, I started to lose my vision in my left eye, and my tears were the consistency of gravy. I had to stand and look just to soothe the feeling of curiosity and fear. I stood up and noticed what seemed to be mud pouring from my eyes. My heart sunk to the bottom of my stomach. I made my way back to the kitchen, and just as I thought, the doll started to form sockets right above where the mouth had formed. I decided to use what I think are my last few minutes of vision to write this out and post it on whatever media platforms I can before I lose the ability to see. If you're ever wandering through the forest and stumble upon a doll, I strongly advise you head the other direction.